Hey there, guys. My name is Joe Centineo, and I want to welcome you to Joe Knows. Thank you so much for joining us again. We finished up our Q&A, and I want to begin a series of talks about one of the most important things that I know of, and it's about relationships, and more specifically about marriage. So I wrote a book called Two Become One, like the number two people become one, and two, like how to become one. So it's kind of a play on words, and the book is designed to help people learn how two people can become one and how to actually do that. So I'm going to kind of overview the book, and I use the book extensively for pre-marriage counseling, marriage counseling, relationship counseling, marriage coaching, whatever it is. But I try and help people learn how to get along. So I want to just begin by saying that as far as your life, enjoying your life on earth, next to, I think, having Christ in your life, the next most important decision that you'll make as far as you having a good, happy, fulfilled life is choosing wisely in the person that you marry. So if you're not married, I want to say you need to listen to what I'm going to talk about, because I'm going to help you to learn how to make a good choice. And if you are married, I've got some good news and bad news. There is hope for your relationship. That's the good news. The bad news is that my understanding of the scriptures is that if you're married, that's the relationship God wants to be permanent. Okay. And he wants that marriage to last for a lifetime. It's a covenant you entered. So you're going to have to make the best of your situation. But a little bit more good news is there's no marriage in heaven. So if your marriage is really struggling, do the best you can while you're here. But at some point in time, you're not going to have to deal with that unless you want to. So anyway, I say that, but I'm trying to lighten it a little bit. But if you are married, you understand there are challenges involved in marriage. Two people becoming one is easier said than done. So what I do in my coaching, this is going to be an introduction, and I want to get you to where you're really excited about this. What I do is I help people learn how to click and how to find the areas where they clash and how to become skillful in learning to connect in those areas. And I have 10 sessions that I do in the counseling, 10 chapters in the book. Sometimes for couples, when we're doing the counseling, we don't move on until we master the material. So sometimes we spend quite a few weeks on the same topic. But there absolutely is hope in marriage. And I came from a family where my mother and father had a very dysfunctional marriage relationship. And that was what I saw. And unfortunately, in a situation like that, it's the only thing I knew. So unless I learned to be intentional, I was going to reproduce the same things that I saw in my household, which was not something I wanted to do. Now, sometimes we grow up in a situation where the marriage that we watched wasn't healthy, the relationship wasn't healthy, and we make an agreement that we don't want to be like that. That's not so good, because you're emotionally focused on not being something instead of what to be. So what I did to set me up to have a great marriage was I recognized the negative things that I saw in my mom and dad's lives, but I released them from anything I was holding against them. I forgave them. And then instead of not wanting to be what they were, I began to make choices about the kind of marriage that I wanted to have. And that's what I want to help you to do. And again, these principles that we're going to talk about of how to experience oneness, they'll work in all of your relationships. I apply many of these with my children in having a good, healthy father-son, father-daughter relationship with my kids. I use it in the workplace. So, but specifically, I want to be talking about what I think is the most important relationship on earth that we'll ever have, and that is the one within our marriage. And I've been married now for 33 years. My wife is wonderful. I would marry her again in a split second. Does that mean we have a perfect marriage? Absolutely not. In fact, I've gone through this book. Me and my wife have gone through the book, and we've applied many of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you in the next few weeks. But when I work with couples, I'm happy to work with couples. In fact, listening to these talks I'm doing, that was going to be the prerequisite to me working with a couple. But I don't charge anything for what I do. because the greatest payment I could ever get is seeing a relationship become healthy, particularly a marriage that was bad. People learn how to live together and experience oneness in marriage. And so when I meet with couples, even though I don't charge anything, there is great value to what I do with couples. And I ask them to commit to four things. The first thing I ask them to commit to is that they would take the counseling seriously. Now, let me just tell you, basically, the work I do with couples is really, I'm helping them invest time in their relationship. When you invest time in something, it's going to get better. So I ask couples that I work with to, in addition to the time they sit with me, sessions are usually about an hour, that they would review that material and try the best they can to put it into practice. So number one, I ask couples to take the counseling seriously and put it into practice. The second thing I ask them to do, and I do this with the couples that I work with that are Christians, and most of the ones I work with are Christians, not all, but most. And I ask them if they would put Christ in their relationship. I've been shocked to see over the years that a lot of Christians who are married to other Christians have very little spiritual interaction in their relationship. And it's like, wow, what a shame. How can you miss out on that opportunity to, as a couple, to experience Christ together? And I'm not talking about, anything wild and crazy, but so I ask couples to do a couple of things. Number one, I ask them to commit to going to church together as much as they can during the counseling. Now, I'd love for it to continue, but I kind of ask them to make a commitment to go to church together. The other thing I do is I invite couples to do something that most have never done before and most love, is I ask them if they'll begin praying together. And the way I end every session with my couple is I say, okay, we're done. Now, why don't you guys pray together? And I leave the office, shut the door, and they're there on their own, and they have to figure that out. But what I'm trying to do is get them to begin doing something that is going to pay great dividends in their lives, and that's praying together, seeking God together. So number one, I want them to take the counseling seriously. Number two, I want them to put Christ in their relationship. Number three, I ask them to maintain healthy boundaries. And the boundaries I'm talking about are boundaries concerning the physical relationship between a man and a woman. So it's really funny because couples that come to me that are married and having marriage issues, they've usually stopped having sex. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, it tells married couples, don't stop having sex. You need to come together. There are lots of reasons for that. I'll explain that in parts of my series here. But it's really funny. I have to ask the married couples, hey, would you start having sex again? For the couples that come to me that are yet to be married, what I have to ask them is to stop having sex, because many of them have already begun experiencing that, doing that together. And it's very clear in the scriptures that God, and He designed sex to be experienced after a man and a woman are married, after the covenant, the commitment to marriage. So I ask them to do that. And the last thing I ask couples to commit to is that, okay, if a couple is not married yet, I say, now listen, here's the deal. Whether you get married or not is going to be up to you. What I'm going to do in the counseling is, so in commitment, pre-commitment counseling, relationship counseling, or pre-marriage counseling, I just tell them, I'm going to hold up a mirror and help you see what marriage is going to be like if you choose to get married. Okay. So, and then I tell them this, if you want me to do your counseling, and many couples will also have me do their wedding, that they must commit that divorce and separation are not an option. Now, they don't have to get married, but if they choose to get married, I ask them to do it as a lifetime commitment. For the couples that are already married, I have to lower the bar a little bit because they're discouraged. Most couples have had many years of having an unsuccessful marriage. And I ask them to commit, at least during the counseling, to not consider separation or divorce. And hopefully we can see that marriage restored. So I'm very excited about this. I'm going to wrap up this morning right here. This is my introduction to you, and I want to encourage you, if you're single and not even in a relationship, listen in, because you'll get some great tools on how to connect with the person when you meet someone and are ready to move towards marriage. If you're engaged, or you're with the person you know you're going to marry, then this is going to be the best preparation to help you know what's coming and to help you to be able to sharpen your tools so that you guys can experience you can experience oneness in marriage. If you are married and things are great, and this is going to help it be greater. If things are good, it'll help it be gooder. If things are bad, then listen to this series and then reach out to me, and it would be my honor to help you personally and do individual counseling. So it's going to be fun. Thanks for taking the ride with me, and I'll talk to you next week.